Water. Life begins in water and is sustained by water. It has been said that if there is any magic on earth, it is surely contained in water. All the water that is available to us on this planet is now here, locked in the oceans, the watersheds, and the surrounding atmosphere. It has been here for millions of years, passing through the purifying transformations of condensation, absorption, and evaporation. This centuries-old cycle of purification is an essential condition for life on this planet. To carelessly introduce impurities into the cycle could eventually threaten life. In this cycle, water falls on the earth to be absorbed by plants and the earth itself. What is not absorbed collects and moves into the arteries of creeks, streams, down waterfalls, and into rivers, to finally end in the ocean, where the sun draws it up again as vapor. The land over which this surface collection of water takes place is called a watershed. A watershed is a pattern of water movement, a pattern of energy exchanges. All the life on a watershed depends on the cycle of moving water. The watershed populations, whether fungal, plant, reptile, mammal, human, or bird, interact with each other in a kaleidoscopic pattern of energy conversions, breathing, eating, excreting, reproducing, dying, changing from one state of matter to another. Watersheds are usually named for the creek or river that carries the water to its next junction. This is a watershed system on the south face of the Great Smoky Mountains. Hazel Creek is the organizing stream, beginning high up under Siler's Bald and running south by southwest to feed into the Little Tennessee River, now impounded in the reservoir, Fontana Lake. Thus, Hazel Creek is a watershed within the larger watersheds of the Little Tennessee and the Tennessee Rivers. Biological life has flourished along the Hazel Creek watershed for the past 1,000,000 years. Over this vast stretch of time, many species have come and gone. Some have endured. Some passed into local extinction. Human involvement in the energy exchange on the watershed began about 10,000 years ago. Nomadic hunter societies roamed the river basins of the southern Appalachians until about 1000 BC, when small farming communities began. Around 1000 AD, the Cherokee began migrations to the region and settled along the watersheds south and west of the Smokies until their removal by the federal government in 1836. The pioneer farmsteads that followed the Cherokee were similar in many ways, for both were in the ancient agricultural pattern of an extended family, or clan, sharing labor, land, and resources to shape an independent subsistence. In such a system, human effect on the energy cycles of the watershed is minimal. Horace Kephart, a 20th century writer who lived on the Hazel Creek watershed from 1904 to 1907, describes the people there.
A mountain settlement consists of all who get their mail at the same place. Ours was made up of 42 households scattered over an area 8 miles long by 2 wide. All roads and trails wiggled and wingled around so that some families were several miles from a neighbor. All about us was the forest primeval, where roamed some sparse herds of cattle, razorback hogs, and the wild beast. Speckled trout were in all the streams. Bears sometimes raided the fields, and wildcats were a common nuisance. Our settlement was a mere slash in the vast woodland that encompassed it. In our primitive community, there were no trades, no professions. Every man was his own farmer, blacksmith, gunsmith, carpenter, cobbler, miller, tinker. Someone in his family or a near neighbor served him as barber and dentist and would make him a coffin when he died.
The first major impact on the life of Hazel Creek by modern technology came in the early 20th century, announced by the scream of the power-driven saw.
I worked on Hazel Creek in the mountains. They made them roads, them trains, haul them logs out over, pick and shovel, till they come to a cliff, and then it's hammer that steel down by muscle power with a hammer, till they could blast it out and go on through, you see, and hit dirt again. And they hit lasted for years, but they built them all over them mountains and logged that timber out. But that's that spruce balsam timber, you see, they got up above the hardwood, and that's, I guess, about the best bound there was in western North Carolina, was spruce timber. It's big and it's pretty, and it was thick. And in 1918, the First World War, now they sure moved timber out there to build ships out of it. Cut them logs 40 feet long and logged them out on them trains down to that mill and cut them in squares and they shipped them.
Over 170 million board feet of lumber was extracted from Hazel Creek watershed alone. Nearby watersheds, such as Nolan Creek, Eagle Creek, and Forney's Creek, were also harvested. Although energy in the form of lumber and forest products was gained by human populations in distant locations, the energy patterns of the watershed were changed forever, and its populations, human, plant, and animal, had to adapt. A second level of change in the energy cycles in the watershed occurred a generation later. This time, it was not timber that was extracted. It was hydroelectric power, power to run the industrial system of a nation facing global war.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
On New Year's Day, 1942, the first blast in the construction of the Tennessee Valley Authority's Fontana Dam and Reservoir sounded across the silent hills of Hazel Creek. As before, there were gains and there were losses. Families were removed from farms, and the towns of Medlin, Wayside, Proctor, Bushnell, and Fontana were destroyed by the reservoir. A new town, Fontana Village grew up almost overnight at the construction site. Thousands of acres of valuable forest and farmland would be submerged. But when the new installation went online in 1945, it provided 226,000 kilowatts of power to help in the final months of the war. Today, the land over which the waters around Hazel Creek collect and begin their long journey to the sea is a part of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Some things remain as they always were. The caddis fly still builds her delicate nest in the moving waters of a stream, as she has done for millions of years. The high conifers still release the vapor that gives the Smokies their name. Other things have passed on into memory. The nomadic hunters are gone, leaving only the faintest trace that they were here at all. The chestnuts are gone, the buffalo, the wolf, and the panther, all are gone. There are a few small farmsteads in nearby watersheds, but the ancient patterns of kinship and work are gone. The log flumes, the mill yards, the locomotives and narrow-gauge railroads of the timber era are gone, as is the virgin forest of giant hardwoods that brought them in the first place. Horace Kephart is gone, along with those last families he wrote of, the Cables, the Welches, the Halls, the Posies, though some were allowed to remain on the land they loved. Energy is motion, capacity, change, the movement of water over a watershed, the biological life within the watershed, the extraction of resources from around it, the atmosphere above, and the sun beyond are all a part of an energy pattern we are only now beginning to understand. We are beginning to see that there is no such thing as an isolated event, that every technological advance brings with it an inevitable chain of side effects that must be reckoned with, that everything is connected to everything, and in no one thing is there a final answer.